Prime time local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
It's time now for this week's edition of Retrospect. Here's Blake Nath.
This week in Retrospect, local students participate in the I Want to Be a Millionaire program for young entrepreneurs.
I think that's really important, to show the customer that you care. That's number one as far as service goes.
14 young business people were getting some first-hand advice yesterday on how to run a successful business. The entrepreneurs are all part of the I Want to Be a Millionaire group that originated in Nova Scotia and is now in its first year here in the Midwest.
This whole program started up to get young people to invest some time and energy in the community and to come up with some ideas for self-employment.
And the business ideas are original. Lanny and Tyler Code market chickens and say they've benefited from the program.
Well, it teaches you basic business skills, customer services. We've had an accountant come in and teach us stuff.
And Winston Churchill School hosts an intern from Japan and celebrates multiculturalism.
Today at Winston we are having our Japan tour day. It's one of 3 days that we're taking part in. Some of the classrooms went yesterday and some are going tomorrow.
The school is celebrating what it calls the multicultural event. The idea originated because of a Japanese intern working at the school.
I usually introduce Japanese culture and Japanese tradition to students.
Ishiguro is working with 2 other Japanese counterparts who came to the school for the initiative. The students are being taught through a number of interactive sessions.
They are studying about Japanese writing, a little bit of the kanji writing, some of the language, Japanese language, with one of our Japanese students that is going to another school, a high school student. They're learning some martial arts. They're having their picture taken in front of Mount Fuji.
And that's it in this week's Retrospect.
Retrospect this week is brought to you by Webbsport. Worth your while to drive the extra mile. Webbsport in Vermilion.
Now our Connor Chan will take a look at your weather forecast.
All right, thanks very much, Jasmine. Take a look at temperatures right now. It's starting to get a little bit warmer outside, a little bit clearer, not as much rain as we are going to be seeing over the course of the next several days. So right now, sitting at 17 degrees right now for our daytime high, with winds coming in from the west there, 20 kilometers per hour there. As we take a look at some temperatures for other temperatures, in the region, 18 degrees out in Vermilion, 16 for Vegreville, 15 out in Bonnyville and St. Paul, 18 degrees for Edmonton, 18 also down in Provost, 22 degrees for Macklin, 15 out in North Battleford, 18 degrees for Maidstone, 14 for St. Walburg, 17 for Meadow Lake, and 18 for Green Lake. And as we take a look at the satellite radar map, over the course of the next several hours, we will start to see some cloud coverage activities as well as some precipitation starting in that Maidstone, North Battleford region as it moves upwards into that Meadow Lake area. And then, of course, here on the Alberta side, of course, the southern areas got hit pretty hard over the weekend, but we will start to see some of that cloud coverage roll in from that Vegreville coming in from the west into the east there and around to the Lloydminster areas where we could see some showers over the next several days. So here's a look at some temperatures, regional temperatures, in-depth look into them as well. 10 degrees overnight with some cloud coverage there, and heading into 21 degrees tomorrow for the daytime high in North Battleford. 8 degrees overnight in Cold Lake, heading into some sun and some cloud coverage there tomorrow. Possible showers there at a high of 22. And for us here at Lloydminster, 8 degrees overnight as well with some cloud coverage and a little bit of sun tomorrow, that daytime high of 20 degrees. But we could see some of those showers come later on into the afternoon. We could see possibly maybe up to 5 to 10 millimeters of some rain. So here is a look at the next 3 days. 64% chance of some showers for Wednesday, where we could see a lot more rain there is expected, possibly up to 10, maybe even 15 millimeters of rain there, and another 60% chance of some showers heading to Thursday with a daytime high of 12 degrees and a low of 7 there. So we're looking like getting some rain over the course of the next several days, but as we'll see in the 7-day forecast, we should have a fairly nice weekend ahead of us. But that is a first look at your weather forecast. We'll have more primetime local news after the break.
Now in sports, our Evan Kenny and Eric Bay sat down to chat about the latest in the NFL and MLB.
Joining me today on Mondays, as always, is Eric Bay to talk about the world of sports. Eric, thank you for joining me.
Hey, always happy to talk some sports. Looking forward to be back in the studio and doing this.
Now, Eric, obviously there's been updates going on throughout major sports around North America and around the world, mainly about getting seasons going, season proposals and whatnot. However, there is some other things going on as well, specifically in the NFL. A little bit of sickness going on with some of the star players.
Yeah, that's right. And specifically the Cowboys and Texans, multiple players on both teams have tested positive for the coronavirus, including Ezekiel Elliott, his agent confirmed. And when you hear this, again, you just think we're talking here about sports trying to come back, especially, the NHL, the NBA, even the MLB with whatever they have going on at the moment. But you look at these sports trying to start up, and this is the concern, obviously, is that one or even a handful of guys test positive, because if, say, the Cowboys were trying to play right now, well, depending on how many that is, that could be 5 starters, that could be 6 starters, that could even be, Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott, just to name some possibilities there. So really that's the concern right now, is the fact that, hey, without this isolation stuff, you never know who's going to test positive, what's going to happen, and is this going to be a big enough concern that it does end up having to shut a season down or kind of hamstring a team here when they're trying to make that playoff push?
There's also been a number of announced cases in the NHL. However, they haven't announced specific players. So I guess when it comes to the NFL with these players getting sick, they're a little bit luckier, as in that they don't have to play, they don't have to start their season as soon. But it's still something to watch out for, with a cluster of people in Texas getting sick all at once in this sporting community. So that's something that we will keeping track of. Another thing that we've been keeping track of is the MLB and how they've proposed to start their season. And it really has not gotten off the ground, Eric. Discussions have gone back and forth between owners and players, but nothing's really happened.
Yeah, there's going to be no amicable solution here. And the latest on that is, obviously we've talked back and forth, and they've been at different ends of the spectrum. And now the MLBPA just released a statement that basically said, it's time to play, just tell us when and where. So they're really kind of laying it down now. There's no hope to be able to come to some sort of agreement. So what they are looking for now is for the owners and the MLB just to lay out a schedule, and they'll figure out stuff such as compensation, all that after the fact. Again, if and when this schedule does come out, there's still going to be a delay. They're looking at 3 weeks just for spring training. Obviously, those pitchers especially, they're going to need to be worked into some sort of shape, because you can't really tell what they've been able to do at home. But again, there's going to be quarantining and such as well. But again, just looking at this, when it was a sport, as we've talked before, that had the best chance, I guess, of those kind of team sports to really come back on time. And you look at how it's gone, it's really poor. And for the whole thing, it's money. That's exactly what this entire thing has come down to, compensation. And we've seen this time and time again with multiple NHL lockouts, past MLB lockouts, the billionaires fighting the millionaires. So it is really a shame that they couldn't come to some sort of agreement. But I mean, I guess if you look at it in a positive light, it does mean we are going to be getting baseball. It's just not maybe as happy a resolution as we kind of hoped.
One proposal that I have seen from the owner's perspective was a 50-game season, and you mentioned money. In that scenario, players would only be getting a third of their normal salary. What are your thoughts on that, and especially that drastic of a change?
I mean, again, you look at it, I feel like the players should be fairly compensated for their work. So if they are playing that 50-game schedule, they should be getting paid for the 50 games they play. And that's really where this issue came in, because the players were ready to go. They wanted to play, even a 114-game schedule. And when the owners came back with that schedule at about 72 games, is one of the ones they proposed, 76 in there, it still wasn't with that full salary. So they still weren't going to be getting paid for those 76 games, 72 games they would have been playing. So that's really where the owners came in, was, hey, we'll give you the full salary you want, but it's going to be a shorter season, because they've kept saying about how they're losing finances and all this, and that's where the MLBPA has been trying to get them to open their books. So really it looks pretty poor on the owner's part, this entire thing, just the fact that they haven't been able to loosen the purse strings a little bit and just pay the players what they do deserve to be paid, as they are playing 50 games, whatever they would have been playing. They should be getting paid for the amount of games they do play.
Now, one thing that the MLB has been able to agree on was the new MLB draft that just took place here on June 10th and 11th. Eric, why don't you just break down, the changes that they had in this season versus past years?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously the big change is the amount of rounds. We're used to seeing upwards of 40 rounds of drafted players. This year they shut it down all the way to 5. So just 5 rounds of drafted players. So you just think of the disparity there. And obviously, I'll be the first one to admit the MLB draft is way too long. You look at those guys in the 40th round. It's usually high school guys, stuff like that, and they're going to be going to college anyways. They won't sign. So to be honest, you could probably cut that draft in half originally. But it is tough. You look at the players who are counting on this. There's a bunch of juniors, seniors who are hoping for a draft slot, but maybe not going to fit into the top 5 rounds because that's still quite a few, or not many players being drafted, that is. So you look at how many guys would have been drafted in a normal year and had a chance to sign this year, now all being forced to sign as undrafted free agents. And really the painful thing, I guess, about this for those prospects is because of this whole labor stoppage and all the issues now going on, the undrafted free agents are signing for $20,000 when they could be getting, a couple hundred, say, in, the 6th, 7th round for a bonus. And you look at, we've talked minor league baseball, obviously, is tough right now that they've kind of disbanded the whole thing at the moment. And even before, they weren't getting paid a lot. So those signing bonuses were kind of what those guys were living off of before they did eventually make the majors. So really, it's just tough to see these guys who, one, didn't get drafted, and then 2, are kind of forced to settle for pennies on the dollar. So it's really tough all around for these players coming in.
Well, once again, in the MLB, it does seem like a money problem. So we will be interested in following that one. Eric, it's always a pleasure having you on and talking sports with you.
Hey, always fun to talk, especially to start off the week like this. Thanks.
Now our Connor Chan will take a look at your weather.
Thanks very much, Jasmine. Take a look at temperatures right now. Once again, 17 degrees for us here in Lloydminster, 18 degrees out in Edmonton, 19 for Edson, 19 also down in Rocky Mountain House there, 15 degrees out in Jasper, 16 for Whitecourt, 12 degrees out in Athabasca, 17 degrees out in Saskatoon, 15 degrees in both Melfort and Prince Albert and in North Battleford. As we take a look at some temperatures up north, La Loche sitting at 21 degrees along with Buffalo Narrows, La Ronge sitting at 18 degrees currently, 17 degrees out in Flin Flon, 17 for South End, 23 for Wollaston Lake, and 25s in Uranium City and in Stony Rapids. Port Chippewa sitting at 24 degrees as well, 11 degrees in Slave Lake and in Peace River, 12 degrees out in Grand Prairie, 14 for a high level, and 19 degrees for Fort McMurray. Let's take a look at some temperatures down south right now. 20 degrees out in Medicine Hat, 19 for both Calgary and Coronation, 17 degrees in Lethbridge, and 13 degrees out in Banff. Kindersley sitting in 19 degrees as we move over to southern Saskatchewan right now. 20 degrees in Swift Current, 22 for Regina and in Moose Jaw, 23 also out in Estevan as well, and Yorkton also sitting at 22 degrees to follow that. Now, let's take a look at some temperatures across the country. 29 degrees out in Winnipeg, 23 degrees in Quebec City, 21 in Toronto, 21 also in Halifax, 8 degrees in St. John's with some fog coverage there and a lot of cloud coverage out in that Maritimes area. Toronto also sitting with some sun and a few clouds. Winnipeg also getting some of that cloud coverage as well. As we shift over to Vancouver, sitting at 12 degrees right now with cloud coverage there alongside Yellowknife sitting at 12 as well, and Whitehorse also sitting at some cloud coverage with a high of 16 degrees. So lots of cloud coverage throughout the area as we are expecting a lot of showers coming in from the west in towards the east area here, as we will see for tomorrow. Daytime high of 20 degrees for our daytime tomorrow. 21's also out in Vermilion, Marwayne, and Wainwright. 21 also out for Vegreville and St. Paul. 20 for Edmonton tomorrow. 22 in Pierceland, Bonnyville, and in Cold Lake. 24 Lac-La-Biche, 22 for Provost, 21 for Macklin tomorrow, 21 also out in Maidstone and in North Battleford along with St. Walburg, 23 degrees for Meadow Lake and in Green Lake as well. So here is a look at the next 7 days. Take a look at those numbers. We could see some showers possibly tomorrow that could translate into the later parts of the day as well as into the evening. As well as in tomorrow, we are expecting a 64% chance of some showers, the high of 15 degrees. You could possibly see up to 10, maybe more millimeters of rain there. 12 degrees for Thursday is the daytime high with a 60% chance of some showers there. 16 degrees on Friday. We should get a little bit of a break from the rain, but still have that cloud coverage. 21 degrees on Saturdays. It starts to get fairly warmer and a lot more sunnier out there with a high of 21 there. 24 degrees for Sunday with some cloud coverage and some sun mix. And then next Monday, we should have a high of 24 degrees as well, and a daytime low of 12 with mostly sun and a few clouds. We usually average around 21 degrees for the daytime high, usually around this time of year, and usually averaging around 9 for our daytime low. But that is a look at your 7-day forecast. We'll have more primetime local news coming up after the break.
Welcome back. June is the official month for stroke awareness in Canada. With thousands of strokes occurring each year, Connor Chan gets some insight on one local survivor's recovery and how she's helped others along the way.
I'm very pleased to be joined with Kristen Travers, who is a stroke survivor. And of course, June is National Stroke Awareness Month, and she joins me right now. So Kristen, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
You know, your story is fairly well known here in the community. Of course, you yourself, like I mentioned, are a stroke survivor. But for those that aren't familiar with your story, please just share a little bit about what happened to you.
So I am a registered nurse, and I was on my way to work, and I suffered a cryptogenic stroke, which means they don't know why I suffered a stroke. And I had a ischemic stroke, which means there was a clot that found its way into my brain. And I got left with aphasia and apraxia, which means that I lost my ability to communicate. I couldn't write, I couldn't read, and I couldn't speak. So it took some time to recover that.
How long was the recovery process? Because I know everybody is different, especially depending on your age, but for yourself, how long was that recovery process?
It was very gradual. So the first couple days I couldn't speak at all. Like a lot of people thought I was cognitively impaired because I couldn't write, I couldn't read, all of that kind of stuff. And then eventually I started speaking in nouns. I had great speech pathologists that helped me, and I had a great family support that kind of surrounded me and helped me. And so eventually it's kind of a gradual process. And I think 6 months I could carry on a conversation, and then a year I could write good. And there's still a lot of things that I'm not back to where I was, but I'm actually better in certain things. So I always say I'm the new normal now. You definitely do not regain what you had when you have a stroke, because it's a brain injury. But you can get better in a lot of ways, and you can excel in a lot of ways, and it's definitely not the end for you.
What are some of the common signs and symptoms that people should look for if they feel like they are having a stroke? You know, numbness is one, having a headache is one. Just what are some of those common signs and symptoms that we should look out for?
So sudden, lots of the signs come on sudden. We tell lots of people to look for those sudden signs. So sudden numbness or weakness to one side of the body, such as your arm, your face, your hand, your leg. Confusion, trouble speaking or understanding speech, sudden trouble seeing in one or both eyes, sudden loss of balance, trouble walking or difficulty coordinating. So if you have any of those signs, call 911.
Now, like I mentioned before, your story is pretty well known here in our community. Have you been reached out to other families that, may be going through a similar process to what you've been going through? And if so, what are some things that you tell them to kind of help them get through those tough times?
Yeah, actually, I still get probably a few times a week people reaching out to me. I think it's very important. When I suffered the stroke and when I was, in the hospital, and I didn't have a lot of examples of young survivors, and I didn't have a lot of examples of, young moms that were, suffering from, aphasia or stroke, and I didn't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so I think it was very important for me as a healthcare professional and for me as a mom to kind of put my story out there and say that it gets better, and that no matter what circumstances you're faced with, you can overcome them. And I do have this most amazing support system around me. And I do want to give them all the credit in the world. And I want to give support to other people that are going through that, because I have been very blessed with my recovery. And if I can be a part of someone else's recovery, I want to do that for them too as well.
How important is it for people to understand that, a stroke can really just happen to anybody. It doesn't just happen to a certain age or a certain person. It can happen to basically anybody.
Stroke doesn't discriminate. Heart disease doesn't discriminate. So it's very important to just be aware of those signs and symptoms. Make sure you get frequent medical care and talk to your doctor about, if you're at risk, if you have diabetes or high blood pressure, all of that kind of stuff. It's very important to manage that kind of stuff. I think it's very important to, even if it's not for yourself, to know those signs and symptoms for potentially looking out for someone else, looking out for those loved ones too.
Well, Kristen, I really appreciate your time, and thank you again for sharing your story for those that maybe are hearing it for the very first time, and always great to hear what you have to say when it comes to this topic, so thank you.
The mayor of Kamloops, BC is calling for the establishment of a permanent memorial to honor snowbirds captain Jennifer Casey. Casey was killed last month after the jet she was traveling in crashed in a Kamloops neighborhood, ending the Snowbirds cross-country tour meant to inspire hope during the COVID-19 pandemic. Mayor Ken Christensen says there have been many requests from residents to establish a memorial near the Kamloops airport. He's requesting support from City Council to work with Casey's family and the Royal Canadian Air Force to explore options. Now we will be taking a look at your pet pictures. Thank you to everyone who did submit them to our Facebook page, and we will be giving away a Pet Pad gift card on Friday.
We want to see your pets. Send photos of your pet and their name to our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram to have them featured on Pet of the Day. Your name will be entered into a weekly draw for a gift certificate from the Pet Pad.
I'm talking today with Rochelle Cube from Yoga Stay Studio. Thanks for taking some time to talk with me today.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
And I know we spoke a few months ago about some of the online live classes you guys were doing at Yoga Stay, and now I just want to hear what you guys have been doing the past few months at Yoga Stay.
Awesome. Well, Yoga Stay kind of went a little quiet. I've been doing a little bit of personal training. Me, myself, doing a little bit of Kundalini training. So I took some time off to do a self-study. But now gearing back into getting ready to do some actual classes with the kids I'm getting really excited for.
And you're preparing to reopen. You're going to be having some kid classes in I think about a week's time. Can you just talk to me about a bit about that reopening process and what that's going to look like?
Yeah, definitely. So in preparation with the yoga studio, it was a little easy for me because of course we keep everything super clean here and sanitized. But with the opening, there is a couple of small little adjustments, just asking people to head on over to the Yoga Stay website and pre-register for classes. So we can talk a little more about that, how you can pre-register later. And then another thing that we've been doing to prep is we've been asking people to bring your own yoga mats. We did provide them before, but just for like sanitary reasons, I'm really encouraging people to get out there and just purchase a yoga mat and just have it and bring it and clean it yourself.
So for the pre-register process, you do it online. How does it work? Is there like blocks of time that people can do?
Definitely. So if you go to the Yoga Stay website, which is www.yogastay.ca, there is a pre-registration link. So you head on over there, and when you pre-register, you click on if you're interested in the Tuesday class and then the age group. Once you get there, you can select the date and time, and then you can pre-register. You can only pre-register a week before. I'm still kind of trying to figure out how this app works, but either way, we got her working, we could pre-register, and there is a cap. So here at Yoga Stay, I'm allowed 15 people, including myself. So online, I've allowed 10 spots for pre-registration, and then I'm gonna have about 4 that I can play with, whether that's extra people showing up or bringing my own kids or whatever it will allow.
And I also saw that you at Yoga Stay are selling a summer pass. Can you just talk a little bit about that summer pass?
Definitely. So right now I have on special a 10-time pass for $80. This pass will be used from July to August. So plenty of time to use up that pass, get those kids out there. Right now I'm offering 2 days of kids yoga. So Tuesday evenings, you can catch a yoga class for your kids, or Thursday afternoon. And then Wednesday, I have a teen class. So for my kids classes on Tuesdays, I have them broke down on the Tuesday and Thursday class. You have ages 3 to 6 or ages 7 to 10. So check out the website, check out your time, and pre-register if you're more than interested, or just come check us out.
And have you been receiving a lot of comments, or have people been reaching out to you kind of inquiring about when you're going to reopen and excited to join you at the studio again?
Definitely. There has been a little bit of excitement. A couple parents interested, new parents for sure. So that's really exciting, getting the new kids into the class. Very excited, just bringing in some new techniques that I've learned with the Kundalini and just seeing what can happen. Come September, we're going to have a full schedule. We're going to get back to the mommy and me. We're going to have a lot of kids yoga and, of course, Kundalini. I'm thinking Kundalini for kids, but definitely for adults as well.
And you mentioned that people are going to have to bring in their own mats and clean them, and you're only allowed 15 people, including yourself. Are there anything else that might be different from people who are used to going to your studio months ago?
One other thing I guess I forgot to mention is when you do come in, there is going to be a self-check-in. So you will, as a parent, have to write your child's name, do a temperature check, so making sure that their temperature is in check, and then just letting me know if you're checking in with your pass or dropping in or pre-registered. And then that way it's just selfless, no contact, nothing like that. So hopefully the system should run flawlessly, and I have no worries. I'm excited. I'm really excited to see everyone. Our classes start back on Tuesday. So Tuesday, come on down.
Perfect. Thanks for taking some time to talk with me. I know it's an exciting time for everyone, and I wish you the best of luck as you prepare to reopen.
Thank you, and I look forward to talking to you again. Thanks.
Thank
you. Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
I'm joined here with Cord Harvey, and he is a manager at the Canadian Brew House here in Lloydminster. Now, Phase 3 in Saskatchewan started last Monday, and that included restaurants opening at 50% capacity, and that included the Canadian Brew House. So did you guys reopen your seating, and how has it been since reopening?
It's been pretty good. A lot of people are enjoying being back for sure. The social distancing is a little difficult. People tend to forget that they have to do it, but they're understanding most of the time and quickly fix and adjust to meet regulations for sure.
And how have you had to adjust your seating at this time?
We just blocked off basically every second seat, which is about the 6 feet, if not more, just to kind of separate tables here and there, and it actually was pretty easy.
What has been the biggest changes you've made with like your waitresses and just customers coming into the store?
Well, the masks obviously were a bit of an adjustment for everybody, but they quickly got used to it. The cleaning was always kind of there. We were always quite clean, but now we've just had to spray down more stuff. Spray down the tables more thoroughly than we did before, but that end of it really hasn't been a big change. It was always there in the first place. So, yeah, really was the masks, I guess.
And you know, you mentioned that you haven't had to change much as you guys already sanitized a lot, but was it difficult at all to start changing and using these new rules and regulations?
No, there's a lot of confusion at the start because the rules in Alberta and Saskatchewan are a little bit different, but really is the best way to do it is just clean more.
And
then,
oh, sorry.
Yeah, if you clean more, you're never wrong, basically.
And you mentioned that you waitresses and waiters are having to wear masks. What has been the different processes for bringing out food and drinks?
Well, we tend to use gloves and masks for any contact of consumables. So the bartenders wear masks and gloves, and the kitchen guys do as well. But anybody carrying the stuff to tables and things like that, we just make sure they wash their hands a lot. So there's definitely a lot of sanitization going on in the hands, for sure.
And what has been the customers' reaction to all of this as they get to come back once again?
I think everybody's just happy to be out of their house and going to a restaurant, getting out, socializing, and just doing something different.
Now, you and everyone at the brew house must have been pretty excited for the fact that you're being able to serve the community once again and being able to interact with all these regular customers that you usually get.
Yeah, it was getting a little boring there for a while, just sitting around doing nothing. So this is nice to get out and, practice safety, but, be around people, really.
And are you guys taking reservations, or can people just come up to the restaurant and go in and everything?
Yeah, it's walk-in. We will tend to seat you on busier times because that way we can make sure the tables and everything are wiped down and cleaned for you. Rezos we've held off on just because we do have minimal seating, so we don't want to block anything and have someone not show up. But we will eventually get to that.
And has there been any changes to your hours at all?
No, we rolled full regular hours, which has been really good. There's been a lot of people doing late dinners and stuff, so it's been very good.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Cord.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
All right, taking a look at your 7-day forecast one last time here. 21 degrees for us tomorrow is the daytime high there. We could see some showers maybe earlier on in the evening as well as into tomorrow as well. 14 degrees, for Wednesday with that daytime high. We got at least over 60% chance of some showers, as well as on Thursday with that daytime high of 11. We could see maybe up to 20 millimeters of rain throughout those few days. 16 degrees on Friday with cloud coverage continuing on. 22 into Saturday with a daytime high there and some sun and a few clouds there. Same on Sunday. We'll just be 3 degrees warmer with a high of 25 there and a 24-degree daytime high for Monday as we wrap up that 7-day forecast with a low of 12 there and averaging usually around 21 degrees for our daytime high, and usually averaging around 9 for a daytime low.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of Primetime Local News. Have a great night.